And will you join me in welcoming our Figaro? This is Daniel Mobbs. I should point out that Danny made his debut with us in 2004. He played the role of Lord Sidney in Rossini's opera The Journey to Rheims, those of you that might have seen that some time ago. And then was back again in 2006 in the role of Leporello in our Don Giovanni. Incidentally, Danny was Leporello and David Pitzinger, who was the Count tonight, was the Giovanni. So they were both here together in our Don Giovanni. So, any questions you have for Daniel? He'd be happy to answer. Yeah. So the question that the gentleman is asking, he observed that Dana's doing 4 performances of Figaro in here, and then wants to know if the show moves on or if this is part of a tour or circuit.
It's kind of a mixed blessing and deficit to be an opera singer because we don't get to go on tour often. Musical theater shows, like when David was in South Pacific, goes on tour, and they get a chance to really do a number of performances, up to 100 sometimes, to really get to know the role. We as opera singers don't take this production further, but you may have read in my bio I'm singing another Notte di Figaro in Baltimore, but it'll be a totally different production, totally different cast. So it's always a bit like that for us as opera singers. The first day of work is a bit like the first day of school every time. It's new people, new staff, new situation, new surroundings. So it's always a little bit of starting over. But the benefit of that is that I get to sing Figaro in many, many different productions. I get to revisit the role in different ways many times. And a person singing South Pacific may never get another chance to do a different production of South Pacific again, because there's usually only one of those around. The one thing I did get to do that most people haven't been able to do is I've sung over 100 and some odd performances of Figaro in the Barber of Seville. And now I'm older and my voice is lower, and I'm singing Figaro and married to Figaro. But I did a little ornament at the aria with the lantern right before the aria started, which is maybe a little tacky for Mozart, but it was my my homage to the character of Figaro in the Rossini. It was a little Rossini ornament. It's my little personal shout out to Figaro.
Let me add something to that. Isn't it amazing that you just heard this wonderful artist sing for the past few hours with this glorious voice, sing in Italian, and now he comes out and he just sort of talks like a regular person.
That's all we are.
Hey, I remember when I first started going to the opera as a kid, that all of you were such gods up there. I used to think, my God, they really are like other beings. They're sort of immortal. And then, you know, I was lucky enough to find my way into the profession as an opera director, and I realized, oh, you know, they're really just terrific people. Yeah. You know? And they do a lot of the same things that we do, you know.
Go out for drinks after the opera.
Yes. Hey, let me ask you a question. You've sung a lot. I mean, I know you sing a lot of bel canto music. You sing a lot of Donizetti and Rossini and those great bel canto composers. You sing a lot of Mozart. Is there any difference between preparing, you mentioned Rossini's Barber of Seville, and preparing Figaro in Mozart's opera, or other roles that you sing? I mean, is there anything particularly about Mozart that's challenging or different, and if so, what?
I was explaining this to someone the other day. The difference, like if you compare the two Figaros, the Barber of Seville was written for a much higher voice, a lyric baritone, and it's meant to sing in the passaggio, which is kind of what we call the break, around E and F natural, all night. And it's meant to sing really, really, really fast. So it takes a long time to teach yourself that muscle memory in order to sing that rapid. You know, if you've ever seen a barber or Cenerentola or those things, people say really, really fast words, and usually in a part of the voice it's uncomfortable to do. So just in terms of the vocal capability, singing a Rossini or mostly Rossini, that kind of pattern takes months, if not a year, to get that under your belt. While Mozart, the role sits in a more speaking range. The bass baritone range is kind of where I'm speaking now. That's where the whole role ended up, basically, with a few notes high, a few notes low. But Rossini kind of goes all over the place all the time. So in a way, preparing this, not saying it's simpler, but it's a simpler range to sing in. It doesn't take the stress that other things might require. But this is a long night. And it's usually a very physical interpretation, and this was as well. So it's physically more challenging sometimes, although the second act of Barber finale can be the most challenging physical thing ever. Yes. But they're pretty similar except for their range, I think.
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments. Let me just repeat both the comments and the question, and I'll hand it back to Dan. This woman is observing on the quality of the singing and the quality of the voices. Thank you very much. Portland, I mean, I know this is difficult for me to say because I sound like I'm through hubris, but Portland has an excellent, excellent opera company. It's one of the best opera companies, regional opera companies in the country. And because people like you choose to support this organization through your subscriptions and through your annual giving and your other ways of volunteering, it enables me as the general director to bring this level of talent to the city. This is an extraordinarily consistent and very high-level cast. So thank you for observing that. And the question was, the voice that she was talking specifically about Danny, that his voice and his diction and his projection was so strong and so clear and so impressive. Are you amplified in any way?
No. No, we're never amplified. I suppose maybe there is an exception somewhere in Verona and the arenas in those places, maybe. But no, never, frankly. We trained so long with voice teachers and vocal coaches to get these two of the tiniest pieces of muscle tissue you have in your body are our vocal cords. And they're really teeny and very, very thin. But you learn the ways to project by aiming. The front of your face is made up of your sinus cavities, and all these bones are fixed bones, right, your skull. And that acts as kind of like a soundboard. When you sing, you kind of try to think about using all these, opening up your sinuses, and the sound will go through those bones, and it actually amplifies itself by doing that. People who sing musical theater don't have to sing so, it's not as strenuous for them because they are wearing a little body mic, usually right here on the top of their head. But they have to sing every single night. So they need a break, and the microphone helps them from having to really use their voice at its fullest potential all the time. Unfortunately, we have to use it that way. That's why our performances are scheduled, days and days apart, luckily. And I will say about the Portland Opera, it's easy for him to invite talent because this place has a great reputation for the quality of the performances and how well you're treated here and how great Portland itself and the whole region. My mom and I went down to the shore yesterday and enjoyed some of the beautiful sights. But it has a great reputation, so when you get a call to do a job in Portland, you say yes.
We had something to that. I'm thinking about the question from this gentleman. Maybe I should try and clarify how producing opera for this company works, just very briefly. We're producing 4 operas this year. We bring the soloists here from all over the world, and they come spend a month in Portland. They stay at a hotel, and we rehearse for about 3 weeks, and then we perform for a week. So they're contracted usually 2 or 3 years in advance to come spend a month here and rehearse The Marriage of Figaro. We contract all of the out-of-town soloists. The chorus and the orchestra are all local artists, right? But the conductor and the director typically are also out of town. And we produce that opera. We here produce it. It doesn't come from elsewhere. We'll rent scenery from this place or costumes from that place, and we'll bring all the artists and these elements together and produce the operas here. So all the operas you see here are produced by the Portland Opera. We also co-present the Broadway tours here. So we're a unique opera company. We produce opera, and we're a co-presenter with our Broadway partners of all the Broadway tours that come through Portland. Those are touring productions. In other words, what was just here last, Blue Man Group, or The Lion King. Those actors are usually on a 1-year or 2-year contract where they'll spend 2 weeks in Seattle, 2 weeks in Portland, 2 or 3 weeks in San Diego, 2 or 3 weeks in Chicago. That's a Broadway tour, but as an opera company, these are produced here by this organization. So there's a distinction there that I think might be a little unclear to the general public. And yes, as Dan mentioned, those Broadway tours, they're all amplified. There's a guy in the back in a sound council that's always mixing the sound, like a recording engineer all night. The singers you heard tonight, they train to be able to project their voices without amplification in a theater this big. So that's what I think is what's so special about the opera. It's like we're hearing the beauty of the human voice without any other device that's helping project it. Now, just to be clear, when we do a piece like The Magic Flute, where we have 3 children in that sing, we'll do some subtle amplification for kids, because obviously the average 10-year-old would have a hard time projecting a theater this large. So there, we might do some amplification for children. But otherwise,